Hello everyone, and welcome to another edition of So You Think You're Awesome, aka Adobe InDesign Review Part 2. This document may look very familiar because this is pretty much the same document as the lesson review I showed you earlier for Part 1. In this part, you'll notice that I deleted a lot of the panels over on the right side, and it's got a couple modifications like these triangles here, as well as a couple other small things in the different pages. Nothing too crazy. It's basically the same document. You've gotten a copy of this in your Adobe group if you're one of my students. If you are not one of my students and you're watching this video, send me an email. I'll see what I can do about finding this for you. If someone asks you, hey, I need to make a new document and I need to have it a specific size and a specific type of bleed, well, in that case, if you're looking for a new document, you go to File and you click on New and you go to Document. In this new document, it should have a couple different options set up for you. For example, this is Newsletter, aka Letter. And if you look carefully, it says different items here. These are in picas. It's usually 51 by 66. If you change this to inches, it's 8.5 by 11. This is portrait. See, I hover over, it says portrait. This is landscape right here. This is our number of pages right here. And it's best used for print, so if you look carefully up on the top, you'll see that it says print. And with that, it even says letter here as well. And here's the same picas and picas, 5166 with portrait. You can open up the margins and you can see the margins. Here's all the margins that are available to you. And if you look carefully and down below that, you can see bleed and slug. I'm going to minimize the margin so you don't have to see any of that. The bleed is the outside edge. For example, if you want an outside edge of 1/8 of an inch, I'm going to go up here and change this to inches, by the way. I can come down here, and if I want an outside edge of 1/8 of an inch, that's 0.125, and I just press tab and it automatically formats all of them in my bleed right here with the link. The bleed is the outside edge. I'll create this document. You'll see on this right here there's a red line on the outside. This is called the bleed. It runs off of the page. And now I have a new document that's a letter with it's letter size with portrait for print with a 0.125 bleed. It's pretty awesome. I'm going to go back to my original InDesign document right here. Well, first I'll show you some other things on here. Down on this document right here, you'll see the outside edge right here, this space. This is called the bleed, like I said. This bottom area down here, another reference to this bottom area is called slug. This is where the printing instructions go. There'd be a space right down at the bottom of the document. This is where the printing instructions go. I'll get to that later. The footer is down at the bottom of the page as well. This is where you'll find the footer. And this outside area over here to the right and to the left, that's the pasteboard. Here's our original document right here. The Monbear & Tea Company. It's fabulous because we're fabulous like that. You'll see that there are some errors right here. Here's your pre-flight panel down at the bottom. If I open up this pre-flight panel down here, you'll see I have some links and some text that are missing or messed up. If I here's overset text, for example. If I double click on this text frame, you'll see I have overset text right here. You'll know I have overset text because there's a red box with a little red plus sign in that. There's a couple options in order to fix this overset text. The best option that's available without having to resize any of this text or trying to adjust the text or trying to add new boxes is just double click right here on that little handle in the center. If that doesn't float your boat, you can always click and drag to resize it that way as well. Another option is using these corner handles as well. Click and drag. You don't need to resize the text or add text to a different box. Use the handles, drag down the handles. It's not too different, not too difficult. The next thing that I want to show you is the other overset text, which is right here. I'm not going to bother with it because this has got a really long box to it and it's got a lot of text in it. If I click and drag, you'll see there's a whole lot of text in here. I'm not going to worry about that one. See, there it is still. I'm just going to keep it as is because we don't have to worry too much about it. This is only a practice. I am going to go to some other icons. You'll see right here, these are missing links, that type of thing. ID.png, this is the InDesign logo. And if you go to the links panel, you'll see the question mark. That means that the original link that came with this image is no longer available. And the original link that came with this image is no longer available. It probably got deleted somewhere along the line within the past year or two from my computer. It's still here on this image and this image, but it's probably deleted somewhere. This is where embedding an image comes into play. It's a good idea if someone asks you, hey, how do I embed an image? Or what images can be embedded? What images can be linked? That type of thing. Well, if you embed an image by coming over here, go to the menu, you can relink, or you can double click it. You can use these relinks to embed your image. When you embed your image, what happens is the InDesign file itself, it saves the original into the actual specific file. That way, into the InDesign file itself, into the page you're creating. Instead of it's on your desktop somewhere and you accidentally delete it, it embeds it onto your file in InDesign. You can link it as well through, and let's say you have a Photoshop image and you update the Photoshop image, like this Mustang logo here is a Photoshop image. You can update it in Photoshop and a little triangle will appear. It looks like this. It's a status. A little yellow triangle will appear and it'll say relink. And if you relink it, it'll automatically update this picture. It does not automatically update it when you update it, when you change or anything in Photoshop. You literally have to come in and click on the little triangle if there's a little triangle here. The next thing I want to show you is if you have multiple different items selected. I'm going to close out this pre-flight panel. I'm going to close out this as well. If you have multiple different items selected, let's say I have this InDesign icon, this text selected, this box down here selected. If you want to specifically showcase one particular thing, like this InDesign logo, you just click on it one time. If you want to deselect something, for example, I have all these icons selected. If you want to deselect this text, for example, you press and hold Shift and you click off that, and you click on the text while pressing and holding Shift. It deselects, it removes the text from the entire selection, but it keeps the two images selected. The next part I want to talk about is copyright. Remember that when it comes to copywriting, for example, this image down here, it's an It's an Adobe stock Creative Cloud image that's available to anybody of the fire extinguisher with the fire on it. Remember, in order to use anybody's artwork that has a copyright image on it, you need to ask for permission. You need to obtain permission from that copyright holder before you can use the work at all. And you also need to cite the copyright holder when using the work. Any work that you use on a professional level needs to be cited, and you need to ask permission, and you need to be given permission to use that work. The next thing I want to show you is how to make document presets. So this is our original document, and with that document, let's say you want to make a document with different chapters and different numbers of pages and widths and heights and margins and all that fun stuff. Well, you go up to File, and in File you go to Document Presets, and you make a new document preset by clicking Define. Here's the Document Presets menu right here. I'm just going to select a new document preset, and I'll call it Monbaron. You can call it whatever you like. The intent for my document preset is going to be a print, because we're going to print. This is for print. I'll say 10 pages, and they're facing, because if they're not facing, then they're not a book. Start on page 1, and the width and the height, well, you can use inches or picas. For my example here, we'll do 44p3. That's 7.375 inches, 7 3/8 inches. And I'll do 54p for an example. 7 3/8 and 9 inches. We got one column, a gutter right here. And then we come down to the margins and the bleed and the slug. The margins, if you want to change a specific margin and leave other margins, you unlink it right here. You unlink it. For example, if I want my outside margin and my top margin to be, for example, 4p0, and I want my top and my bottom to be 4p0, you would unlink it beforehand. If you linked everything, they would all change to the same thing. If you unlink it, you can come back and change a specific thing. For example, the outside, I want 6p0. And that can change this preset. I can change the bleed and the slug down here as well. If I want a different bleed, here's my 1/8 of an inch again, 0.125, and it links everything the same. See the link? I'm going to click OK. This preset is now called Monbaron. If I want to apply it, I click OK. I'm just going to click Cancel because I don't necessarily need it. This is just an example of showing you how to set up a preset. I'm going to go back to my untitled right here. I'm going to zoom in a little bit so I can see. You zoom in by doing Control+. You have some rulers up here. I'm going to change my rulers to picas. You right click on the ruler, it changes it to picas. You right click on the ruler, changes it to picas. And let's say I want an X guide. If I want an X guide, for example, here's our Y guide. If I click and drag a line, there's a Y guide. See, it even shows you up here, here's our Y guide, or right there. If I want an X guide, you go from the left of the vertical line and you click and drag. If I want an X guide, say I want it at 20, I can just select this right here and type 20 P0. If you want it at 10, you type 10 P0. It's a whole lot easier just dragging a line out and typing 10 or typing 20 instead of getting the exact perfect spending 2 minutes getting that time wasted when you can just come up here and type it instead. So remember that if you have a situation like that. Next, I'm going to show you some masters. So right here is my original document, and in my original document, in my pages panel, you'll see here's my master, my A master. You'll notice a little scroll bar, a vertical scroll bar. You can scroll down like that for those, and you can click and drag to bring these down. On the master, you'll see if I double click on the A master, this is my A master. This B master right here is the same layout as the A master because it says A. This C master right here is a B master layout, is the same as the B master, but it's a single page. This B master is an entire spread. All of them are all set up to look like an A master. If I do something like draw a line on this left side page of the A master, you'll notice if I double click on the B master, it's still there. If I double click on the C master, amazing, it's still there. Whatever I do to the A master, it's still done to the C master. It's still done to the B master because it's formatted the same as the A master. I'm gonna do Control Z because I don't want that on my page. If you want to assign specific masters to specific pages, for example, let's say I want A master to be on page 2, page 3, and page 4. I go up to the menu, I click on Apply Master to Pages, and I say what pages do I want, what master do I want? A master, cool. Here's a B master. And here's my pages. I can do custom, I can do all pages, I can select a specific page, 2 through 4 for example, and I'll click OK. And I'll apply to all, and I'll keep current page size. So now my first page, my title page, and my last page are now A masters, and page 2, 3, and 4 are B masters. But remember, like I said, originally how I have this set up so I don't have any issues is A, B, and C are still all the same. They might have minor tweaks like maybe the page number is a different color or something, but other than that, they're basically the same. If you want to switch pages around, the easiest thing to do is you'll notice if you start clicking a whole bunch of times, for example, if I'm going to switch page 2 and 3 and I move it over here, you'll have a double page on that left side. That's not necessarily what you want. And if you drag this right side page over, you're going to notice that it creates a separate page, a separate spread completely. You don't necessarily want that either. If you drag it up more, there's page 3 is now page 2, and page 2 is now page 3. It takes a couple steps, but if you do some clicking and dragging, you'll be able to get it where you need it. You can also deselect these if you really want to, and you can do it that way as well by deselecting these. Allow document pages to shuffle, that allows spreads to shuffle. You can also come up here to the menu and you can click on Move Pages. This menu and go to Move Page 2 after page 3. Okay. Move to current document. Perfect. Destination after page. Click OK. And now you'll see page 2 is now after page 3, because that was our original page 2. Now it's after page. Now it's changed to page 3. But they're on different spreads. So remember, you're still going to need to fix that by dragging the new page over to the other side and dragging this one up so that you have a spread. So So it doesn't change the formatting. It's still the same in concept. That's multiple different ways you can switch over pages. Next, we're going to talk about the layers. Right here are the layers. I'm going to select a page first. Here's our page 1. And here's the layers panel right here. And in this layers panel, this is how you organize your different layers and different pictures. If you want all of your pictures on one item without compromising the look of it, then you group all of your pictures onto one section and name it whatever layer it is. If you want all of your text on one section, then you need to label it text. These are called ETP circles. These are called ETP types. These are polygons. These are all different names for different items. Here's a group of items in this text frame. I should, in all honesty, label this layer, because if I hide this layer, you'll see there everything goes. If I hide these triangles, you'll see there they all go. Best practice is to label your layers and make sure you group your graphics in one layer and label it graphics. Group your type, your text in one layer, label it text. Don't compromise the integrity of it by shifting it all around. Make it the same as what it originally was. The next part we're going to is paragraph styles. So here's some text right here, and here's paragraph styles. If you don't have paragraph styles in your panel to the right side, that's going to be up in type, and you go to paragraph styles. If you want to create a paragraph style, you either go click on this create new style right here, or you come to the menu and click on new paragraph style. I'm gonna call this new paragraph style Mustang, and I'm not gonna have it based on anything because that's not necessary. And the basic character formats, here's some different fonts. For example, here's Century. Here's the font style, we'll call it regular. Here's also a good one to use is Arial, because it has a lot of options for it. With the Arial, you can do different sizes. Here's 16, here's 17 point, here's 18 point. Here's a font style of bold. Here's normally it's normal case, which means it's standard. Uppercase, lowercase. Here's small caps. Here's all caps, open type small caps. I'll try some small caps. So it's gonna be not crazy difficult to do that. And then we're coming to, in the paragraph style, we've got some justifications and some space after. So in this case, you're going to be coming through and just looking for your justifications and your spacings. Here's indents and spacings. Here's alignment, aka justified. And for example, left justify. We're going to align it left justified. And space before, here's some space before down here. Here's some space after over here. Let's say we want 1/8 of an inch, 0.125. There's 1/8 of an inch. 0.125, that's 1/8 of an inch. Then I'm going to click OK. And I just created a new paragraph style called Mustang. Now if you want to change a paragraph style, for example chapters, you just double click on chapters, and let's say we want to do some hyphenation or some justifications or some spanning. Well, hyphenation is when you're putting letters in, putting dashes. So hyphenate, for example, words with at least 5 letters, 10 letters, 7 letters. Here's 8 letters. And let's say I want capitalized words only. So make sure I capitalize hyphenated words. That way, if you have a last name of Lugo Ramirez, you'll have a hyphen between it instead of a space. Here's our justification with our word spacing right here. We're fully justifying it at the moment, and it's going to span a single column for now. So for now, there's our hyphenations, and then I'm going to click OK. Next, in order to change a text to a different paragraph style, you select the box and you select the paragraph style you want to change it to. For example, heading, and there, now it's all heading. I changed it all to heading. I can undo by doing Control Z. If I want just this text right here to be changed, then I select the text with my type tool and I click on heading that time. And you'll notice it all formats to the right because heading is formatted to align right with that specific text. Now, in order to apply an object style, for example, I'm going to come down to this over here, and I'm going to drag this little Mustang head out so you can see it a little better. We're going to apply an object style to this. If you don't have object styles over on the right side panel, you can go to Window and go to Styles and click Object Styles. In the Object Styles panel right here, there's an object style that's already pre-made for you on this document. It's called ETP symbol, and if you watch the Mustang and click on the ETP symbol, you'll notice it has a drop shadow that gets associated with it, and the stroke goes away on it. So I'm going to drag it back over here into the box, and that's how you format an object style, associate an object style with another object. I'm going to close out of that and go on to the next part, which is character styles. Here's the character styles panel. If you don't have this character styles panel, it's in type and character styles. Here, I'll drag it over here so that we have it in with character styles. Let's close some of these tabs because they get in the way sometimes. I don't need some of these things. A lot of these things are kind of redundant, not necessary, and they just clutter things up. So here's character styles. And in character styles, we're going to modify a character style and format it, and then format some text. So for example, here's T-name. In order to modify it, you double click on the character style, and in the character styles we want to change, for example, in the basic character formats, change it to a bold. So if you want to change it to a bold or an italic, you select right here where it says font style. Here's narrow bold italic, here's bold italic. That'll look great. And let's say I want small caps. If I want small caps is in case, small caps. Then I click OK. And look, it automatically formats any of the character styles associated with that specific font to small caps. See, all this is now small caps. The next things I want to show you is tracking. because that's also associated with character and character styles and all of that. If I have this text selected right here, the Expedition Tea Company, and I have character open, this right here, this VA in a white box, is called tracking. This, if I make the numbers larger, it puts more space between every letter in the entire paragraph that's selected. If I make it smaller, it puts less space in the entire paragraph that's selected. That's called tracking. This right here is called leading. If I put more space and make it larger, if the larger the number, the more space there is between the entire sentences. So it makes more space between the lines. This right here is obviously your font size. This right here is your kerning. You'll notice right now it's at 0. I selected 0, but if I change it to optical, it changes over to the left a little bit. And if I change it to metrics, it changes just slightly more. It makes it so it fits the entire section. But I'll keep it at optical. This is called kerning. This is called tracking, where it puts a space between each letter. And this is called leading, where it spaces out the lines, more space between each entire line. Next, I want to show you text wrap. You'll see this horse right here. It has text wrapped around it. In order to find text wrap, if you don't have it on this panel over here, also as a side note, characters in the type tab right there, character. If you don't have text wrap, which is right here, you can find text wrap by going to Window and clicking on text wrap right here. Originally, my horse, it had text behind it because the horse was on top of text. In order to fix that so we have a nice text that's readable, you have to come to text wrap and you have to choose one of these options. The best one to choose is wrap around object shape. And to put a padding around it, for example, here's an 1/8 of an inch padding. That talks about an offset. I would recommend keeping it linked so that all of the sides have the same offset. For example, here's 4P0 for a padding, and if I press enter, it automatically changes it to 4P0. If I want an 1/8 of an inch, that's 0.125 IN, and press tab, it formats it to an 1/8 of an inch. And there's text wrap for you. Remember, it's in Window and then go to text wrap. The next thing I want to show you is a drop shadow. Here's InDesign right there. And InDesign, it offers effects. Here's effects right here. If the effects panel is not available, go to Object, click Effects, and you can have different options available for you. Here's drop shadow in the Effects tab. If I go to Effects this way and I used it this way, I can either click on Add an Object Effect or go to the menu and Effects and drop shadow. Same concept right here. With this drop shadow, we're going to do a multiply. I like that multiply right there. And we're going to have an opacity. Right now it's at 75%, and you can see that drop shadow around the outside. Change it to 40%. You can type the numbers as well. The distance from it, you can use picas, you can use inches. They all come back to the same default no matter what. In my case, it's in inches. Some cases it's in picas. So I'll use picas for example. There's 0p6 changes to 0.0833. Here's my angle of 135 degrees. I can change that to by using this wheel, or I can just type it here, 135. And the size, you'll notice here, the size of it, it gets larger or smaller depending on which one you choose. Here's a 0p5 for example, and it gets a little closer in. And I'm going to click OK, because now I just added a drop shadow to this. And that's going to be in effects. The next thing I want to show you is how to flip an image. Let's say you have a picture like so. This is your original picture on the inside. It's got some T, and it says a question says, hey, you should flip this horizontally. Flip it so the T is now on the opposite side. In order to do that, you click on the little direct selection tool, aka the donut, and you'll see an orange frame. Once you see that orange frame, you right click on it and you go to transform, and you can flip horizontally. What that does is it flips it horizontally. Now, as a side note, you may have to move it to the other side so that it performs a mirror image. As a side note, you may have to do that. The next thing I want to show you is how to resize an image. For example, we have a cute and wonderful, beautiful little Anna, my daughter. If you have the image selected, you can right click on that and you can go to fitting. There's some different fittings available. Most reasonable is fit content proportionally if it wants it in that frame without changing the dimensions of the picture. See, it fits proportionally to this frame without any overlaps. And you have a square right here. We want this picture to be in this square also. So I'm going to click using my direct selection tool. There's my direct selection tool with clicking on the donut. Then I'm going to right click and I'm going to copy. You can also do Control C. Then I'm going to select my box and I'm going to right click again, and I'm going to do paste into. When I paste into, you'll see now the picture is now inside the box. If I do, I'm going to undo that. If I just do copy paste, Control V, it doesn't paste into that box. Control Z. If I have this right clicked and copied and I select the box and I go to paste into, now the face is inside the box. I'm going to bring it down a little bit so the face is centered as well. Oh, beautiful. Such a darling. There's the paste into as well in the edit section. And please remember, when it comes to images themselves, that whenever you take a picture, like a bunch of trees down a road, that's called framing. You're framing a specific element with something else regarding, for example, your trees on the side of the road are your frames, and your road is going to be your specific element you're focusing on. This, for example, the face itself goes by the rule of thirds. You've got 3 sections, 1, 2, 3, a top, a center, and a bottom in a picture. And you also have a right, a center, and a left. That's the rule of thirds. Your eye focus should be in that center box. If you want something focused somewhere else, it should be centered in the focus should be on a specific box and less focus around the outside. In this case, the little girl's face is the center, and that's where the focus should be. The next part, going up to the top page, we're going to do some modification of some anchor points. You'll see this triangle is covering this image. We want to fix that. So I have this triangle selected, and I'm going to use my direct selection tool this time. And you'll notice I have a hand, and I have a triangle, a white triangle, a black triangle, and a white triangle with a square. Whenever you see the white triangle with the square, that's the one you need. If I click and drag, Control Z, I didn't do it right. Control Z. I forgot. The next part I want to show you is how to change the anchor points of specific objects. You'll see that these triangles are blocking the image itself, but I still want to have the triangles there, just want to see the image more. In order to do that, you use your direct selection tool and you click on your triangle and you go to the corner anchor points, or the tip of the anchor point, and you click and drag until you have the right shape that you need. Here's a good shape right there. Smaller triangles. I can do the same concept by clicking on the triangle, using my direct selection tool, coming to this corner, clicking and dragging, and bringing that in to match. Now I can see the image behind it a little more clearly, and that helps. That's called modifying the anchor point. The next part we're going to is down here to this octagon. Octagon right there. We're going to create some gradient swatches with it to make it all nice and colorful. So the first thing we're going to need to do is open our swatches panel, and we're going to need to add some swatches. So I'm going to click on new swatch, and since there's new swatch there, I'm going to double click it, and I'm going to make it a green. So let's say here's some purples, here's a green right there. Perfect, there's a green. I'm going to add another swatch. Let's make a pink, so we'll go over more. Here's a pink, and we'll add another one, and we'll make a blue. Here's a blue. Beautiful. So I have a green, a pink, and a blue, and I need to make a gradient. So we go to our menu right here in the swatches panel, and we click on new gradient swatch. So here's our current gradient swatch. I'm gonna call it gradient 1. The type is going to be a radial swatch, because usually if you're working with ovals or circles or hexagons or octagons, any type of shapes that are not squares or triangles, usually you're going to do a radial gradient. And then in order to choose the colors, you click on the little tag down here and you choose your color. You can use your swatches right here. These are my swatches. Here's my green, and I'll put my green let's say we'll do green at a 40. Here's a 40. And then I don't want a black here. Let's use that blue. Here's that blue. And that blue, since it's still selected here, I'll keep that at 100%. And I need to add another tag, so I just click one time on the gradient ramp, and I'm going to change it by coming over here, going to swatches, and I'll use my pink this time. And my pink, I'll put it at 0. and then I'll add it to my swatches so I know where it is, and I'll click done. So there's my swatches, and then here's my circle. There's my circle right there. In order to fill it, I come up here to fill, and I choose my gradient swatch right there, gradient 1. I can also use this stroke and fill right here. Right now it's set to fill, now it's set to stroke. The frame is stroke, the white or the big square is fill. So now all I need to do is click on my gradient, and now I have a gradient from pink to green to blue on my gradient swatch, going from the center to the outside. The next thing I want to show you is how to make an image a button that hyperlinks to something. So this Mustang logo, we're going to make that a button. If you don't have buttons over here, in order to get to it, you go to Window, and you go to Interactive, and you go to Buttons. See Buttons and Forms? And right here, since we're going to make it a button for a hyperlink, you click on Button. And we're going to call it Mustang Hyperlink. It's on Release or Tap, and I got to add an action, and it's going to go to URL. And in our case, I'm going to minimize this, and I'm going to go to Google. Here's the Montford homepage, so I'll copy this, Control C. And here's where you put in the URL right here. Be careful when putting in the URL. I'll show you the example. Control V. If you look carefully, you'll notice a double. It says http:// and then it says it again. If it has that double, it will not work. So get rid of one of them, and now you have a URL associated as a button to that image right there, because you're awesome like that. Now in order to change the fill and the stroke of an image, for example, here's a box. Right now it's got a fill of a brown. If I want to change that, I can come over to the swatches panel and change it. Here's a pink. She likes pink better. Let's change the stroke. There's the stroke right there. Here's a purple. She loves a purple. In order to change the size of the stroke, that's right up here. It's 1 point right now. Now it's 5 point. Ooh, fancy. It's so pretty. Next is something that's slightly more difficult, but as long as you know how to do it right the first time, you'll be able to understand it. Here's our table. Let's say you want color on your table. Let's say you want color on every other column, and with this table you want it so that the table repeats if you add more columns and rows to it. So let's do column. So in order to do it right, you gotta click on the table and then double click so that your type tool is activated. Then you go up to table, and then you go to table options and table setup. Now I prefer to have the preview on so that you can see it. And here's our fills right up top. This is where you change your pattern. So pattern of every other row. And we're going to do a color because obviously we want it to be colorful and pretty. So let's change that. We'll change it to the green. There we go. There's the green. Here's a 20% tint on it as well. You can change the tint right here. Here's 33. Here's 30. 30's nice. And we're gonna skip 0 rows because we don't want the heading to have anything. Then I'm gonna click OK. You'll notice that I've got 2 lines that are green. If I make my box larger, and I add a table by right clicking and inserting a row below, you'll see that is now green as well. So we got green, white, green, green. So now we know that the table works properly. Just don't forget, you need to double click to activate the type tool before you go up to table and table options and table setup. Don't forget that type tool. The next thing we need to check out is printing proofs. So if you go to File and you go to Print, which is down at the bottom, this is the part where where it says about custom prints and high quality prints, stuff like that. So if you need a high quality print, it'll be in this general area right here. Custom presets. Here's your setups, here's your marks and bleeds. If you need to have printing instructions on your document, you would include it in the slug area right here. That's where you include your page information as well. So marks and bleed, if you click page information, you'll see there's little tiny corners that adjust. You'll see slug area will be down at the bottom of your page. Here's your setup, here's your output, here's your graphics, send data, optimized, color management, here's your advanced information, here's your summary. Those are your main things right through there. This is the setup of everything. Here's non-print, if you want the options of printing your non-objects, blank pages, visible guides. The main thing is printing instructions go in the slug area. Here's your setup. Here's that section for your actual printer itself. I'm going to cancel this because I'm not hooked up to a printer at home. The next thing you need to see is exporting. So I'm going to go up to File and I'm going to export. In the previous review, you saw how to export interactive documents and print documents and EPUBs and that type of thing. In this case, I'm going to export it. I'm going to call it InDesign Certification Review. And I'm going to label it 2. And I'll save it. And this is where you can specify different print levels. For example, this is where it says high quality print, the Adobe PDF preset of high quality print. Here's all the general information for it. And this is where it shows you where it's for pre-press printing. If it's print, it's going to be for pre-press printing. Here's your pages, here's your range. I showed you in the previous video how to do that. Here's your screen modes, here's your embedded thumbnails, visible printing layers, including in your printing icons, compression, marks and bleeds. This is where you include your information about printing the document when you export it. Here's your output. Here's your no color conversion. There may be some times where a question asks about color conversion. Well, this is where it's no color conversion. That section is in output. So this is this is going to be exported. I'm going to click OK. The next thing you need to see is how to do high quality display. I've showed it, and there's the document. I've showed you how to do high quality display by going to View and then display performance, then high quality. It makes everything more clear, and then you can save it as well. Now remember, when you can also export it. Save, yes. Need to close the other one. Marks and bleeds is where you can show all your bleed information for your documents. If you click on all printer marks, it shows the crop marks, bleed marks, registration marks, color bars, and page information. Now remember that you have to still come down and select include slug area if it asks for the slug area. And then I'll click export. After that, save your work. And then you can give yourself a pat on the back after you've saved your work, because you're amazing like that.